Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. Hope you're having a great time or a great day. Listen, it's an interesting day for me. Ann and I are fresh back from New York City. Our son Justin lives up there, works for Price Waterhouse, and he got engaged over the weekend to just an amazing person. And we're so excited. Big shindig around that. We had a big celebration. Got to meet a lot of his friends, both at Price Waterhouse and his church and otherwise. It was awesome. Everything about this past weekend, the weather, everything in New York City was just amazing. And we flew out of the New Orleans airport. And for anyone who has been over there to park, you know that it can be a bit of a nightmare. I'll tell our story at a future time. I don't want to take the time of my guest today. Today is Singing River Health Talk. We'll have that in the second half. But the first part of the show today is something that as a guest that I have a tremendous admiration for. We go back a long way, and I don't know how many interviews he's done in the recent past. But boy, with Katrina coming on, or the anniversary of Katrina about to be here, we'd be remiss if we didn't spend some time with Brent Warr, the former mayor of the city of Gulfport. And I'm just thrilled to have Brent on the first half of the show today. Brent, how you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Thank you, Ricky. Thank you for having me on.
Listen, it was so interesting to me because, you and I, we went through Katrina together in so many ways, working on the Mississippi Renewal Forum with Andres Duani and all those guys working till early in the morning, and the effort that you underwent after Hurricane Katrina, it was something to watch. And I was reminded when I was getting prepared for this show that you were elected mayor in June 2005, which is literally just 7 weeks before Hurricane Katrina. So to say that you were a political newcomer is an understatement. You went from the clothing business, working with your dad as an entrepreneur, and decided to give back to your city. And you came into that, and then you faced the worst natural disaster in American history. Pretty amazing series of events. When you look back on it, Brent, how do you think about 7 weeks?
In addition to having just been in office for 7 weeks, remember we have 7 city council members in Gulfport. 6 of those 7 were new and had never served in public office either. I had never served in elected office, so you are right. It was I was green and new to the concept of political government, which was probably a good thing. I looked at everything from a businessman's perspective. What's the most logical thing to do, not necessarily the most political thing to do. And to be honest with you, I think that was the only way that I could have handled it. And I think that it served us well. It was overwhelming. Nobody would remember that hurricane season beyond Katrina much and Hugo that came after it. But I actually declared a state of emergency my first day in office with Tropical Storm Cindy, which was bearing down on us. And then Friday of the following week, Hurricane Dennis was bearing down on us. So 2 times prior to Hurricane Katrina in 7 weeks, I declared a state of emergency. So that was a hurricane summer, I guess you would say.
It was really a crazy time, man. We worked together to form the Governor's Commission, a group of private sector leaders. And within 2 weeks, it was formed. And within 5 weeks, we had the Mississippi Renewal Forum with Andres Duani and 100 architects and planners from around the world. What I enjoyed about watching you and the other mayors and political officials and volunteers, the way that each of you rallied around your cities and said, man, we've got a once in a lifetime opportunity to learn from these unbelievable visionaries. And how can we begin to raise the bar for our city in the recovery effort? I never will forget Andres Duani said that going down, if you could get your head above the debris, you could see the opportunity. But going down 25th Avenue to the intersection of 25th Avenue and Highway 90, he called it a gem, even with all of Hurricane Katrina, this incredible crossroads in coastal Mississippi. But you really saw the opportunity to learn from them. And what I observed in you was a leader that was destined to really begin to understand what it looked like to raise the bar. It was a tremendous opportunity for you as a new leader in coastal Mississippi, wasn't it?
It was. I was fortunate that I was able to see and hear the vision that was being cast. You know, Governor Barber, I can't say enough about how he handled things at that time. And I think he was probably the one that said, if we recover to the extent like we had after Hurricane Camille, then we would have failed. And I remember, or if we put it back the way it was prior to Hurricane Katrina making landfall, we would have failed. I think that's the way he said it.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful place. We all loved it. Heck, you know, why would I have run for mayor if I didn't love the city and the community and think it was beautiful? But it felt to me like, okay, everybody kept saying, well, the slate's been wiped clean. So let's not just do it good, let's do it great. That's the only way I know how to do things. I remember sometime after, there were a lot of struggles. It was strife constantly, of course. I remember sitting with our directors, and I said, you know, look at this like a bulletin board. I mean, a dartboard. I said, there's a red dot in the middle of the dartboard. Don't just aim for the board. Let's aim for the red dot. You know, we want to hit the bullseye with everything that we do. And if we do that all day, every day, and if we think that way, then the outcome will be spectacular. My opinion is that Gulfport, it was an opportunity for us to make Gulfport, and I used to say it from time to time in different presentations that we would give, but let's make this a truly great southern city. If you look at Charleston, South Carolina, Mayor Joe Riley, who came in after, was it Hurricane Hugo hit? It was incredible. He was young and just did a fantastic job creating a destination out of Charleston, South Carolina. And I was, you know, that's kind of the role model that I was using.
Well, I remember him well. I mean, I remember him when he came. We spent time with him. But what he did after Hurricane Hugo was all about raising the bar. And,
right.
You know, if there's sort of a clarion call that happened after Hurricane Katrina, there was a rush. There was a rush to build back what was there. And that's the point you were making a few minutes ago about Haley Barber. He felt like we missed some opportunities after Hurricane Camille, and the opportunity for us to come back together as a region and be able to cumulatively ask for the infrastructure needs and all of that from Congress was going to be really important. You know, to think about what we learned from the largest storm surge in American history and how we could protect people next time, and all from raising the homes to the building codes. You know, look in Gulfport, for example, one of the largest, if not the largest, facade programs in the history of the U.S. I think. I mean, you know the data behind that better than I do. The effort with the port, you know, the harbor, people just wanted to rebuild the harbor the way it was, and we had an opportunity to raise the bar there. And I mean, it could just go, you know, Jones Park and what happened there, but there were so many opportunities to rethink things, but there was a tremendous gravity on you and everyone, me too, to just build back what was.
Right.
And it was hard fighting against that gravity. I know that for a fact, wasn't it?
Yeah, a small example of that. Of course, everybody was so freaked out because it was just, as Haley said, it was like the hand of God just came down and wiped everything out for 80 miles. People don't understand that weren't here the magnitude of Hurricane Katrina. There has not been a hurricane like it since, and the only one like it prior, close, would have been Andrew down in Dade County, Florida. Prior to that would have been the 1900 hurricane in Galveston. I've studied them. I've been to every major landfall since Hurricane Katrina. So I know this for a fact. But a small example, everybody was looking for a little victory, right? To see something go back. A perfect example, the difference, Biloxi rented their light poles on Highway 90 from the power company. The city of Gulfport owned our light poles. So it was a simple fix for the city of Biloxi to just tell the power company, put up new light poles, and they did so. Now, because of this is another good example, the Federal Highway Administration changed the wind load requirements that a light pole has to be in a location on a federal highway like Highway 90. So instead of being able to sustain a certain number of mile per hour wind, it went up astronomically. So there was no one in the world that made a light pole that strong. So the power company was able to theirs were fiberglass, let's just make thicker fiberglass poles. In Gulfport, we had insurance, and beyond the cost of our insurance, FEMA was to pay the difference.
Let's do this. We'll pick the story up right there on the other side with Brent Warr when we come back after this break. We'll see you after the break.
Okay.
Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. We're visiting with the former mayor of the city of Gulfport, Brent Warr. And when we went to break, we were just talking about this whole notion of raising the bar. What does that look like? And he was given the great example of the difference between the light poles in Biloxi and the light poles in Gulfport. You can finish your story, Brent.
Sure, it is kind of a funny little story, and it's not a big deal, but it's an example of the push and pull from the community in that situation. Biloxi got their light poles; they had them rented, so Mississippi Power just put up new light poles. It wasn't an issue for them. The city of Gulfport actually owned our light poles. So when they all got blown down, which no one in the city previous administration ever dreamed would have happened, who would, right? They all got blown down. So we had a 100% insurance claim on the light poles. And the unusual situation was between that and the new light poles that would be put up, FEMA was going to pay the difference. So my position was, gosh, we'll never, hopefully, have this opportunity again. So let's go with something that's really good, right? That'll speak to the ambiance of the city. So we chose, went all around the world and looked at, or around the country and looked at light poles, chose those light poles. Well, nobody made that light pole that was able, or any light pole that was able to withstand the Hurricane Katrina wind load guidelines set forth by the Federal Highway Administration. So the manufacturer of that pole had to find a way to make it stronger, which took a long time. A long time in retrospect. Okay, so they're going to be there from now on and for the rest of our lives. So should we wait another 6 months or a year to get them, since we're not having to pay really anything for them? My position was, let's go ahead and take advantage of that situation. We did, but people were just losing their minds over, oh my God, I can see driving down the highway at night in Biloxi and it's dark in Gulfport. The mayor's not doing a good job.
Yeah, it's amazing how that played out. But of course, you look at it
there
today.
There were so many stories like that I couldn't give that explanation for every story that was like that, because there were hundreds of them.
When you see Centennial Plaza, when you pass it driving down Highway 90, and you remember all of the time working with the federal government and reinforcing those buildings after Katrina and getting it turned back over to getting it turned over to the city of Gulfport, you see what's happening there today. It's got to warm your heart.
That's one of my biggest things to be proud of. You know, that's the largest conveyance in American history from the Veterans Administration. It was still raining after Hurricane Katrina when I told the chairman of the House Veterans Affairs Committee that we wanted that property. I was actually in an emergency meeting that they held, and they were given a damage assessment at the Biloxi VA. Steve Boyer, I think he was from Indiana at the time, great guy. And when I walked in the room, they had all the VA bigwigs sitting there, and it was the first ice and the first actual sandwich that I had a chance to get a hold of after the storm. Like I say, it was still raining, it was still wet, and it was at the Biloxi VA. when I walked in the room, they had just gotten to the damage assessment for Biloxi and Gulfport, and he gave the rundown for the Biloxi properties. And for the Gulfport property, he said, we don't recommend rebuilding. They didn't know who I was. There were probably a dozen people in the room, and I stood up and I said, we want it. And Congressman Boyer looked at me. He said, are you the mayor of Gulfport? They had seen video, I guess, of the storm stuff. And I said, yes, I'm Brent Warr. I'm the mayor of Gulfport. We want the VA. So they continued with the assessment. He came back to the back of the room, and I was getting a sandwich and a drink with some ice in it. And he said, are you serious about that? And I said, I'm deadly serious. And so it started there. And 92 acres and $35,919,000 later, it was conveyed to us. I was fortunate. It took just about my whole administration to make it happen, but I was very happy to be able to get the documents to receive it for the city of Gulfport. The 35 million plus almost 36 million was to put the buildings back in good condition, or at least condition where they could be reused,
Yeah. It's amazing what's happened there.
Place.
In 2006, Penn Institute for Urban Research Urban Leadership Award went to you. You went all over the country, talking about the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, but more importantly, what other communities could learn from what we were learning about post-disaster rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
It was an amazing time. And what's interesting, I remember following so closely the Katrina grant issues. And I always felt like you were treated incredibly unfair, but you did face legal challenges from the FEMA and HUD grants along the way. And it was just really unfair. I think there will be a reckoning in your future to resolve that. But when you look back on those moments, what comes to mind for you?
Well, it's a flood of emotions. I loved the job. I felt like I was built for it. I really wanted to do it, but I couldn't run for a second term and defend myself against the federal government. What they did to me is exactly what they have done to President Trump. I could go down the checklist and profile it one day, but that would take a long show. If you think about the toll that public service takes on people, and it does even in the volunteer public service, but in elected office, you are so much more exposed to people who wish you harm. And oftentimes, I'm a Republican, a staunch Republican, but oftentimes those attacks will come from other members of your same party. If you look at what's happened, and I'm almost reluctant to say this because it's so sad, but if you go from Pascagoula to Waveland, and you just think about each person that served in the mayor's office at that time, and what all they've had to deal with, and what's happened to each of those folks. Wonderful people, every one of them, just good people. Between then and now, so much struggle and so much, but because, if you're a good mayor, you put your heart into it and you invest everything that you've got intellectually, emotionally, physically. So the long and short of it is they did to me what they did to President Trump. We had and have continued to have, unfortunately, some very corrupt systems within our government. But I survived it, and that's what matters.
And listen, we also learned a lot about, you gained I'm sure a great perspective on the complexities of disaster aid systems. This was the first of its kind in America, and they came in with such a kind of brutal assessment. It was just not fair because you weren't the only one in that position.
Oh, hundreds and hundreds of people, probably close to thousands. You mentioned the Urban Leadership Award that I was given in Pennsylvania. James Lee Witt was the Democrat. There were more than one recipient that year. He and I. He was the former director of FEMA. Since Katrina, I have participated in an organization called Leaders Link that puts people who were here and lived through what we lived through in connection with other mayors in my situation in these major disasters. So I've been to every major storm since Katrina, Hurricane Sandy in New Jersey, Harvey down at Rockport and Texas coast, Michael over in the Panhandle of Florida, all of them that are bad, and they're all bad. Being hit by a storm, I've said a lot of times, by the time the Weather Channel puts up the red flags and the dramatic music and they tell you to get ready, and they always mention Katrina-esque storm, which has never been the case. People think that they've been hit by something like Hurricane Katrina, but I've not seen one yet that was 10 or 20% of what we lived through.
Amazing time. I only wish we had set an hour aside. Two segments doesn't seem fair. But the truth is, with all the Katrina reflection that's happening right now, would be inappropriate for me to have so many shows talking about Katrina and not invite you to be here, because what I saw in you in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina was extraordinary leadership and vision. And, I saw you there early in the morning learning with so many others of the rest of us, having had your home destroyed and businesses destroyed like so many others of us as well. And you learn a lot about somebody in the heat of battle. And I learned a lot about you. And I'm glad we had at least a little bit of an opportunity this morning to reflect about it. So I really appreciate you joining me.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor and a pleasure to do so. Thank you.
So listen, I will schedule a time for you and I to visit a little bit more in the future, because I'm curious about how life is going these days, man. You continue to track forward. I want to talk about your dad on a future show. Gene Warr, for people who knew Gene, I had the opportunity to work in the trenches with him for so many years. I love the man greatly. He's the one who taught me how to dress. when little Ricky came to the stage, I had no clue how to dress, and he and Woods and others at Warr's Memoir did such a great job of helping me discover myself. But we'll do that. So we'll get that scheduled next month or so, and I'll circle back. But it's been a pleasure to spend some time with you, my friend.
My pleasure as well. Thank you.
You bet. Hey, when we come back, Singing River Health Talk. We'll see you after this.